You are listening to the Icehouse Podcast, hosting conversations with gritty Kiwi business owners and leaders and industry-leading minds.
Kia ora everybody, thanks heaps for tuning in to this week's episode of the Icehouse Podcast. My name is Bryar and I get to host incredible conversations with our alumni about the highs and lows of running businesses, organisations and being in leadership. Today we recorded this episode in person in Blenheim after an alumni event we hosted alongside Hortus. It was a fantastic opportunity to bring the mic down south and chat with local owners and leaders about their stories. Today we have General Manager of the Graeme Dingle Foundation in Marlborough, Kelvin Watt, on the podcast. He has done our Taking Your Business Forward program. What I loved about this conversation is being reminded of how many similarities there are in building businesses and charities. The two have the same challenges, opportunities, and they really need strength and leadership to drive the organisations forward. Kelvin is absolutely the man for the job. He's very passionate about empowering young people to succeed and overcome life's obstacles. Let's jump into the recording now. I know you're going to enjoy it. I like to start with a very open question. Just introduce yourself and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, it's a good question. Okay, so I live in Renwick in Marlborough here, and I'm the General Manager for Graeme Dingle Foundation Marlborough, as you've mentioned. I'm married with three lovely girls, 12, 10 and 6. I grew up on a farm near Balclutha, down south, 4 brothers, so having 4 girls in my family is quite different. There's more hair ties and cartwheels happening around the place. My wife Emmy is from southern Germany, so we have strong links there. Lived there for a few years, and I do speak German. Arguably my daughter's is better than mine, but that's a bone of contention in the family. So in terms of my role, I've been in this role for 11 years, but it's changed dramatically over those years as well. So when I started, there was 1 staff member, now there's 21. We had 14 young people in programs, now there's almost 5,000 this year across 5 different programs. So it's changed dramatically. It doesn't feel like I'm doing the same thing at all. In terms of what I'm passionate about, the nature of my role, clearly, having a purpose, and that goes without saying, making a difference, clearly passionate about what I do. I guess something a little bit more obscure, I would say adventure, if you ask me. Adventure. So I've got a background in outdoor instruction, so clearly into the outdoors, kayaking and tramping and rock climbing and that sort of thing. But I think it's broader than that. In the past, I've really been into cycle touring. I love the idea of being in a space where you don't know what's around the next corner, what's going to happen next. You're putting yourself in a place where things can happen. And I guess that sense of adventure goes broader than just the outdoors. It comes into different parts of your life of being open for interesting things to happen. That would be something I do enjoy, things being varied.
What a brilliant answer. I feel like I, within a minute, know you so much better. But yeah, that's so interesting. And like what you said, not knowing what's coming around each corner, I'm sure in adventure that's it. And also in business and running charities, that's very similar too. So looking forward to diving into that. For context, what does a day in the life of you look like?
I thought of that question. It is varied, so it does align with what I just said. If you ask my children, they would say he speaks on his phone and he goes to meetings. And to be fair, these days, it's not too far from the truth. Although, I guess the flip side of that is I'm dealing with people. I'm working with people, with a team, people alongside me on different projects. So that works for me. I enjoy that side of things. And varied, jeepers. Last 2 weeks ago, we were in a fundraising event, and in the lead up to that, I spent a couple of weeks calling people and asking them to be slimed, covered in green slime on the day. And that was the day. It was literally business leaders from around here, AJ from Hortus and Josh, they were part of it. The mayor and the deputy mayor sat out here and got poured green slime on each other as part of our fundraising. So that's just one part. I guess I do spend a lot of time asking of people. So asking of people for their time, their help, their money. That's But there's probably a little bit more that goes on behind that. I feel like we've, over the years, we've built up a sense of community and support. So actually, and this is what I tell myself, like encouraging people to be part of our journey is what we're doing. So there's lots of opportunities for people to help fundraise or be mentors on our programs or be part of what we do. So probably, my role is about that, encouraging people to be part of what we're up to.
Part of the community. Yeah. That's very cool. It's a very well-known organisation in New Zealand, but for those that maybe haven't heard of the charity, the foundation before, what do you guys do?
Yeah, as I said, we're dealing with young people from 5 through to 25, so it looks different depending on our program. I guess in a nutshell, we're here to raise the confidence and take away some of the pressure points from our young people. I guess we help to give them the tools and strategies to thrive, to do well in life. And we do that, how we do that is through mentors and role models. So putting real people next to real people. Yeah, and I think that's what we do very well. So it's about opening young people's eyes to opportunities, giving them different perspectives and giving them the tools to make good choices.
Amazing. And how did you land this role or start working here? Because obviously, you've been doing things in different industries. What was what led to the moment of leading this great foundation? It's
interesting, like the journey, and I won't give the full life story, but I started, I studied accounting and finance way back, which is something that people look at me strange twice when I say that, but that's where it started. And it's really interesting, the journey. After, when I graduated, I worked as an auditor. And at that stage, and I didn't realise it at the time, but I was having sort of values conflicts around actually the purpose and what I want. So I went from there and I worked in a summer camp, which was interesting. And then over probably 5 or 6 years, juggling those two industries, I guess, personal development and accounting and finance roles, and then committed to moving in a different direction, retrained as an outdoor instructor, followed a different path, which over a few years led to the top of the south. I worked at Outward Bound for 4 years, and then it was a short step across into the foundation from there. And to be honest, my role now is a combination of all of those things. Like it took a wee while to think about it, but actually my role now in terms of managing an organisation, a lot of those accounting and finance and business skills come into play, but also having that background in working with young people and youth development programs from previous lives. It all molds together, so it's actually a really good fit for me, and I guess that's why I've been here for 11 years now. 11 years. And loving it. Yeah.
That makes so much sense. It's funny how you can look back in hindsight and go, oh, that actually pieces together really well. Can I go back a little bit and a little bit off script, if you'll allow me? No. That moment of going, okay, this isn't aligning with my purpose and my values. Was that hard for you to go, I've trained in this, I've put in the years, I'm now going to retrain at whatever age you were? Was that a hard decision to make?
And like I said, I didn't realise it at the time, but the things, I do remember what I was thinking. I was in a good role, like well-paying role, and I was progressing in a space, but deep down I thought, I was thinking this, I was literally thinking, the further I head down in this path, the more I'm going to get paid, the harder it is to make a life choice to change. Yeah. And it wasn't until roll forward, say 10 or 15 years, I was having it with my programs at Outward Bound. You talk about your true north and where you want to go, and you're further, and it was just like, oh wow, those are the conversations I was having in my own head way back then. I just didn't realise it at that time. So it is interesting how those things circle round. And I did it over a number of years. Like I said, I was travelling and I was working in an office, and then I'd go and do an expedition doing something completely different for a time. So I did sort of dabble in both ways, and then over time made the commitment, I guess.
Yes.
So that's my story.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear. We talk a lot, or it comes up in podcasts, around how life just isn't linear all the time, that it can be bounce around and different opportunities come our way, and gut feel is so important to know, like, following that sense of purpose behind what you do, which is very cool.
And that's, on that note, that's exactly what we need to tell our young people. So we have a career mentoring program, And a major part, or one of the key anxiety levels that our young people have is when they get asked the classic question of what you're going to do when you grow up.
Yeah.
Like, we all got asked that.
Yeah.
How do they know? How are they going to know? I mean, and to have that sense that this next subject choice or this first job is going to set them on a course for the rest of their life just isn't true.
No.
And probably that's something that our mentors share with their young people. They talk about their life. This is where I started, and I went over here, and now I'm here. Like, just to take away that level of anxiety is like it comes through in our program. So sharing that story just with young people is actually sets them free, like to make choices and to follow what they're interested in.
Yeah.
So
That's so interesting. Okay, so let's deep dive a little bit into the impact and benefits of the program. So what impact does the programs have on the youth of New Zealand?
I think there's the two parts to it is around developing. There's 5 or more different programs in Graeme Dingle Foundation, but if we narrow the key essence, one is around developing self-confidence and self-belief. That flows through every one of our programs.
Massive, yeah.
And that connection with an important other person, so a mentoring or a role model, or a real person to help guide and help develop those things, someone to talk to when you need it, that sort of thing. Those are the two key parts that flow through, because running something with primary age right through to late teens, that's one of the things. And we hear the stories coming through from our young people, for our around having hope for the future. And when you hear the stories coming through from our young people that have been through the programs and sharing what they do, I guess that's the essence of what we're trying to achieve.
Very cool. Yeah, that's so interesting to hear. How does the mentor thing work? So you would. How do mentors come along your path? Is that through connections you build or your team build or people that put their hand up or a mixture? How does that look?
It depends on the program. So we've got, we've got programs that run in primary schools, and we have staff that run them, building.
Great.
Building talking about resilience or integrity or positive relationships, how to work with each other. So we have their staff that are role models that are out in those schools. And half of the young people in Marlborough enter our program every week, which is awesome. It's grown a great base. Huge. And so that's one part. And then we've got some other programs that are in the intermediate, stepping into college, that transition zone there. And so we train up 70 to 80 mentors, senior students, that connect every week with those year 9s that have just started college.
Cool.
And so it's their peers that are working alongside them and delivering this information or providing that person to lean on or to support as they're transitioning into that space. And we have an intermediate program that does something similar. And then the other transition point that's really important is beyond college. So we have 2 programs that we're running here. So Career Navigator is in the colleges. So we have mentors from businesses, and some of them were at the event last night actually.
Cool.
And we reach out through our connections and sponsor connections to invite key people to come in and guide them in that space, and we also work with unemployed youth in that space as well. So same sort of thing for mentors. We invite them in from different businesses to share their knowledge or open their eyes to different opportunities.
It's so cool because, a program definitely has its place because they can learn and have those sort of aha moments and pick out the gold nuggets from those sorts of presentations and, learning. But then to hear, have, a coffee with someone or catch up during school time and hear literally their career journey or their experience through school, it's so relatable, right? So to have those two paired together is so cool. And even if I think back, I had like a family friend that was sort of 4 years older than me, and she was always someone I talked to every time I was going from primary to intermediate to college. It was like, oh, what was this like and what was this like? It was so nice just to have someone to bounce that off and learn from. So yeah, so much value.
And I think it's actually key. Some of our young people their vision of what's next is quite refined. Like it's often refined to what your parents do or what your auntie and uncle do, and you might not have that wide idea of what else is available in the region. So having that significant other person just to go, hey, have you looked over here? Did you know that, say, viticulture is more than just print? Like there's heaps of other roles in every industry out here that they just not normal for a young person to have those ideas or those perspectives. So absolutely, no, it's really powerful, and just that connection with someone local who they can ask, and that's an enduring conversation that they can keep going.
Totally. And business and career is a lot to do with who you know as well, so it helps you build the networks from quite a young age, which is very important.
100%. And those mentors that we have, they don't need to come from a business that young person's interested in, because they'll know people, because they're connected to lots of different industries. So that's the gold in it. And even our mentors get a lot out of it, because we go on site visits and head out into the sounds and look at the aquaculture, and some of them are like, I didn't even realise this was on our doorstep. So it's actually, it's quite a powerful thing to be the mentor as well.
Absolutely. That's so cool to hear. You mentioned that when you started, you had like one staff member, and the impact was, it's definitely grown over the 11 years you've been here. How does the foundation measure that impact of the programs on youth and the community in general?
We're probably very fortunate around how the Graeme Dingle Foundation is set up. So there is a national support office, and as part of that there's a research and development team.
Great.
And so they measure the impact and work with local universities to measure the impact of all of our programs.
Great.
But locally, in the delivery side of things, we evaluate and get feedback on an annual basis from our young people, from the teachers that are out there as well, and from our whānau as well. So we're out there asking the questions and finding out what's working and what's perhaps not, or what needs amended as well. So we try and do that annually as well.
Awesome.
And I think it is interesting. I think, like any business, the service that you provide, you get quite a bit of an indicator from your customers. So like every year there's another 1 or 2 schools that are asking for our programs and want us to come and deliver, doing more and more. So I think that's kind of a good indicator that you're doing something right as well.
Absolutely. That's so cool. Turning to you and your leadership role and what you do within the organisation, what has been the most rewarding aspect of your role as managing director? Managing director.
The rewarding side is easy. It's the stories that come through. Like, it's the impact that you're making, and they come through often. Like, that's the most inspiring thing.
How cool is that?
It's actually in our team meetings, it's not uncommon to have tears. Which is cool, and that's fine, and it's just the power of the stories that come through, which is why we all do it. And I think that's the overarching thing. I think it's also a close second for me would be the development of the team itself. So and they're often young people themselves that have come. We've had some great stories around, we've had some great examples of young people coming through from college. They've worked with us, they're in the schools, they're working there, and they've actually gone on to study alongside us, and now they're in the schools that we're teaching. And I think actually I talked to the deputy principal of the local intermediate. They've got 3 of their ex-staff members working there, and he was asking, when's the next one coming, Kelvin? But it's great. Like, it's to see that development within our team. We try and offer that within the organisation as well, but sometimes it's moving on. So that's definitely it's like any business, seeing your people develop and grow. And we've been able to provide those opportunities. So that's probably one of the rewarding aspects.
I'm sure there'd be heaps, and when you work for something so purpose-driven, right? It's the people and the stories that really bring it to life and sort of motivate you to get out of bed every morning and do what you do. On the other side of it, though, are there any challenges in terms of your role and what you carry?
I mean, the classic, and it's not dissimilar from any organisation really, is the finding the income, the funding. And maybe the only difference here is around, you see the need or you see the purpose, and you really, and so So that's the challenge. That's probably where it sits mostly on my shoulders, is to find the funding to help do the work that we do. And but it's a challenge. Like it's getting people along, it's getting the community along, and it's being a little bit, using those business skills to look at your income streams and to develop them and work alongside what's possible. And that's not dissimilar to any organisation trying to sell a service or a product as well. So I think, keeping up with that, we've managed to grow our income been done well and grown it by 10 to 20% every year for the last so long, and that means we can do more, and we have been able to do more. So that's satisfying, but it is a challenge. And making those decisions now when we're running various programs where you put your focus in and just making those decisions. So
absolutely,
challenging times.
For sure. Side question, but did COVID affect you guys at all in terms of how you run or how you operate?
Yeah, interesting, absolutely. But there's always opportunities that come out as well. So I am really, really proud of how we responded to that. So right from the start, we responded. I won't say pivoted.
Yes, I did a bit.
we responded, and we felt that we wanted to keep the connection with our people to those young people. We wanted to keep that was our part to play. So how could we do that if the schools aren't operating or whatever, if there's challenges around that? So literally our team looked at what they could do, and each program responded differently, but we were videoing our teams. They're awesome young people that were so creative. So we were videoing sessions and sharing it with the schools and with our young people and connecting in with them in different ways. So they've got a familiar face, and we had such great feedback from parents and that. We were offering ways to entertain, or they were doing their lessons via video link. And it was a big challenge, but we actually got really good at it. The team responded, and we're doing great. They were at home and passing, doing the classic passing the ball to each other and catching. And so they were videoing their skill set from home and bringing together these awesome, just to keep up that connection. A familiar face that the young people could connect with. So,
even more important at that time, right? And
absolutely.
And when parents and teachers were actually looking for content to be able to deliver to their kids during the school day, during after school, whatever it was, I can totally see the need for that during that time. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And even our young people that were doing it in the college age as well. They were preparing lessons to share with their year nines that are at home and helping them through different strategies in schools there as well. So every program was different, but we looked at the way that we could reach our young people in the right ways.
That's very cool. What advice would you give yourself going back to the start of your career journey? Is there any piece you'd give yourself?
I think it is around that there are no wrong answers. There are no wrong answers. I started in one direction, but there's just different choices that you make along the way. And I think that's important for young people to realise in general. Like, you just need to move. Go in a direction and then find your path. And often they circle back round, like I've found. And I think there is value in taking the time to find out where your passions and interests lie.
Yes.
And then to follow those. And possibly one thing I've learnt more later in life is not being afraid to ask for help as well.
Brilliant.
So actually, we run programs with mentors. Like, it would be crazy not to think about that and get advice and guidance from other people around you as well. So I think that's actually a real powerful one.
That's great advice. I popped this question in because I think, Graeme Dingle Foundation is a big foundation. How does it operate region to region? So obviously you're the managing director for the Marlborough Foundation. Do you have much touch point with in Auckland or the other regions? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I think it is a strength. I mean, it comes with challenges being around it, but I think it is a strength. I like the fact we're our own local trust, so I report to a board locally,
Cool.
but we are aligned to a national organisation, so that's the setup, which means we can be really locally focused. Like, we know our community, we know what the need is, we can have those personal connections with those stakeholders around here.
Yeah.
And that's different to what is happening in Auckland or Hawke's Bay or Southland. So I think that's a real strength. And I think even at a more basic level around connecting with the community and getting them along for the journey, they want to know that this is helping their own local community. Like having that community of support and being along the journey, that's actually a real strength. And I do like that, like it makes those connections even stronger. We do have and we do connect with other regions, so there's learnings to be made across the country. So yeah, there's definitely strength in that. There's also challenges around making sure you're not replicating things and that sort of thing, but
True.
that's probably a challenge with any organisation really. But
Yeah,
no.
I like what you said about having the local impact, because the people on the ground know this community better than those in Wellington and Auckland or somewhere else, right? So it's important. And then those that you're asking to get slime on them or know that it's going to be all for a good cause locally with the youth in their region. It's so important.
I'm not sure. I mean, a classic example, would the same people say yes to someone calling from Auckland to say, hey, can you be part of, having those connections and those personal relationships are so powerful, I think. And that's powerful. It flows through to programs. So it flows right through, I think. Yeah,
that's really cool to hear. I want to chat a little bit just about your Icehouse experience. How did you first hear of the Icehouse in general?
I think it was, well, you mentioned earlier we were at Hortus. So they're a long-term supporter and partner of ours. So I think it probably came, I know that a number of their staff members have been through the programs, various programs, and I think that's how it came. And so actually there was some local businesses that, and Hortus is one of them, that supported to go on the program as well. And I think it came about as we'd grown, my role had changed, and just there was a sense of, hey, as we grow the organisation, what does that look like, and how can we build on that? Yeah,
cool. And you went on our first Taking Your Business Forward, so that would have been during sort of the COVID times and all that sort of stuff. So obviously it was online. It's an online program. How did you find it?
No, it was brilliant, but because I mean that time frame being online, obviously. Yeah. Icehouse responded in a way that works as well. But it also, the links there were awesome. Like there were actually quite a few Marlborough people, and some of them were there last night. Yes. So those connections, and I think it's probably what you hear from most Icehouse courses, I would imagine, the ability to link and share stories and connect with people in not dissimilar situations. And I think the big takeaway for me, and it probably gave me a sense of confidence actually, was that the challenges that you come across on a not-for-profit organisation they're just the same as what a small business or any business is going through. Like it's really opened my eyes to the fact that we can operate with a business mindset. We're in a different space and we do different things, but actually the basics around running a successful organisation is the same. Yes. Identical almost to running a successful business. And it was really interesting and enlightening, and it was actually, Yeah, I think it's so true, because I think those in the charity or non-profit sector can sometimes think that there's different challenges to business, but so similar. And like you said, like any successful organisation actually runs the same. You've still got to, you still have to care about your people, culture. You've got to care about finances. There's got to be able to have some money coming in to be able to pour out the impact, right? So it's so important. Absolutely. And we've been, I think, the success around bringing good people around on the journey. Yes. And we've been very fortunate to have a really strong board with great business nous, and surrounding people. I mean, last night AJ spoke around their values and building that and how they work with their people and their purpose.
Yes.
Like literally, some of that stuff could have been a charity that was sharing that aligns incredibly. So I think having organisations or businesses that are aligned so closely with what we do, and we're really lucky to have businesses like that are aligned and really supportive of what we do. That just helps us grow stronger, and actually we can replicate a lot of things or systems and processes that businesses do. Like, they're not dissimilar.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you've also, stayed connected to the community. You came along to the event last night, and I think, there's such a great sense of community down here in Blenheim in terms of just people being so open to helping each other out, sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, and bouncing ideas off each other. So, yeah, it was great to have a few awesome people at that event last night. And, yeah.
It is interesting. I ponder around the size of Marlborough. Like,
yes.
So I think, we've got, over half the young people in this region are in our programs now. Like, we've managed to build up a really strong community of support to help make that happen. And I do reflect on some of the things that help that. And I think the ability in Marlborough, you can literally pick up the phone and within 2 minutes you're talking to a CEO of one of the biggest employers in town, because and they'll make time and they'll have a yarn with you. Or they'll come and get green slime poured over them, one of the other things. And I think that's a real strength of a region like this. It's large enough to have some really awesome business and industry happening here. Yeah. But everyone's approachable. The kids of the CEO are in the programs that we run. There's that level of connection. Yep. And so they get it. They have their kids telling them, Daddy, do the right thing when no one's watching, and all these try again, all these little mantras that come through in the programs, and the GMs or CEOs of these businesses share those stories back to us as well. So that strength of connection.
That's so powerful. Yeah, around the dinner table. What did you do today? I was on this program. Oh, okay, I've heard about that program. I'm going to be dunked in slime for you next week. Totally makes sense. It's powerful sense of small community, and how that can really help businesses to grow, help charities to grow, and to thrive as well. Very cool.
And I'll just add, I mean, they're part of what we do as well. So a great example is where we were last night. Like, I catch up and pick AJ's brains occasionally around different things at a strategic level.
Great.
Josh has been a mentor in our Career Navigator program for many years.
Cool.
Lucy has been on our board and helped with our HR development. Most of the team have been involved in some sort of fundraising event, or they've jumped from planes together and raised money. Like, there's a sense, and I guess our team have run sessions for their staff around when they introduce their new value set. Hey, the call came out, our team talk about values every day and run sessions and interactive sessions. So there's that alignment that you can develop between a charity and different businesses, that it can be quite special as well if there's really strong alignment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's amazing to hear. Back to the advice, back to a form of advice. What advice would you have for inspiring non-profit leaders who are passionate about making a difference but unsure maybe where to start or how to progress their careers? Bit of a curly one.
Yeah, I had to ponder that one. I think the sense of purpose is a really big advantage. If you've got that sense of purpose and you're passionate about something and want to make a difference, I think that's brilliant. Yeah. And that is a major step in the right direction. You do need to develop the skill set to help make that happen. I guess that's the flip side, and that might take time. And I think that's around surrounding yourself with clever people, really, and seeking their guidance. As I said, I've been really fortunate. I've had really strong boards of trustees and business leaders connected to us that are happy to share knowledge and be part of what we do as well. And I've been a bit of a sponge for that. Like, this is definitely a team effort that makes this happen. But people also, I guess I've also learned that if you can get that sense of community, people like to help. I guess if they're on the journey with you, they will often say yes, and they'll find a way to help in some way. So providing people with the opportunity to help is a good thing.
Totally, because so many people want to help. They just maybe don't know where to start, what to do, where to begin, and so it's cool to be able to help them along on that way.
And I'm constantly humbled by people who say yes to me, who say, yes, I'll jump out of a plane or I'll get covered in green slime. So, there's just, if the journey is a good one and heading in a good direction, I think people will come on board and help along.
Yeah, fantastic. So cool to hear all the great work you do in the community and what you learnt from the program, what you took out of it. Very cool. If listeners are interested in supporting the foundation, what can they do to help?
There's lots of different options, and I guess there's Graeme Dingle Foundation in lots of different regions throughout the country. So it would really be picking up the phone and talking to the general manager in that space. So there's the mentoring aspect is a real strength of what we do, and having that personal connection. Businesses, there's opportunities. There's lots of different opportunities to get involved with this organisation, actually. So from whether it's helping in a sponsorship, but it's more than that. It's like you can be part of the programs as a mentor or involved in the fundraising or as a board member, or there's lots of different ways. So I think it's just reaching out and asking, and having that conversation. What does it look like? How can I help? This is what I can offer.
I think in the charity space, that question, how can I help, is so important. I think in the past, people have potentially gone, I think I know how I can help the whatever foundation, here's what I think you guys should be doing. But because they're not the people on the ground doing the hard mahi, doing the work, they don't quite know. And so I think that question of how can I help you, and allowing the charity to go, this is what we need, is so powerful for anyone to do. And it's a great piece of advice to get involved and to use your powers for good, I guess. It's good. Love it. Hey, thank you so much, Kelvin, for sharing your story as a leader. I want to ask you this one. It just popped up while we were chatting. Do you think you were born a leader, or do you think you've developed the skills over the years?
Ooh, curly question to throw in.
We'll finish on a curly one.
It's an interesting. I mean, it's not something I wake up in the morning and go, I'm a leader. I don't know. I feel like I'm surrounded by good people.
It's a hard one. Some people say a bit of both. Some people are like, nope, definitely had to learn it. Like it's an interesting one, I think. Maybe, or everyone's a bit of both, maybe.
I think so. And there's so many different styles of leadership.
Yes.
That I think everyone's got an opportunity to lead in some form, in some way. So, I don't think, and I'm sure I'm not the full decision maker in everything that happens in this organisation, to be fair. So in terms of being a leader, or are there several leaders that help push this organisation forward in different ways? So,
Oh, it was so cool to come in this morning and to have such a nice greeting by Kerry and the team. And you can definitely tell that you've built a culture, and everyone's part of building that culture. But you've led a culture that is passionate about what they do and feels very comfortable around each other, which is really a positive sign of a great organisation. So well done for all you're doing in the community and building this amazing foundation here locally in Marlborough. Looking forward to seeing what's next and cheering you on.
Thanks for the opportunity, Bryar.